Hi, you can actually see me now. Isn't that exciting? How are you doing today? I love technology. I really do. And even when I mess up, I still love it. It's been years and years and years. Let's turn my phone off so we can just focus. Hi, how you doing today? So glad to be here with you. We want to talk about focus, right? So I've cleared away all distractions and everything. And I really just want to focus in on helping us both focus what we're doing. It's so easy to be distracted. It is so easy to see that little floof in your hair and have that totally pull you off point, right? We need to be focused on what we're saying and who we're saying it to. So let's talk a little bit about that, okay? Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am an international best-selling author. I am also a third-generation minister. I have multiple books that I've done now, but my joy in life, my honor and privilege is to be able to work with the people that I help write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. There are literally thousands of people now. There's a whole bunch of people that are using the system I created, thousands that have used it already, both directly with me as well as with others, to become best-selling authors, to share their message with the world, to put themselves out there in a way that impactfully and powerfully makes the difference that only they can make. That's what we're here for, right? I love the saying, and I mean, I remember hearing Lisa Nichols say it. I've heard others say it, but really ultimately it boils down to this. We're not our own. We weren't created, brought onto this planet for happenstance. You're not an accident. The multitude of things, I mean, it is so astronomically mind blowing from whatever space you want to come from, scientifically, spiritually, whatever direction you want to look at things. It is mind blowing that you're even here. All of the things that have come together to the day that you were conceived, and the fact that you made it to term, all of that stuff. It's just amazing. You are definitely here. There is most definitely a purpose for you. If you don't know that, let's talk. Let's talk a little bit about how to define your purpose. But I think most of you have a general idea. Here's a hint. If you don't know, here's a great place to start. You know that thing that you talk about so much? If you have kids, it's really easy because then they roll their eyes when you start talking about that, right? Some of you on Facebook, you're like, yeah, I roll my eyes just about the time you get into this here, Steve. Um, your friends automatically are like, oh yeah, absolutely. That's the thing that if that person said nothing else in ever again in life, they would definitely say that one thing. That's a clue. Also, the things that you find yourself saying all the time show secrets into who you are. I've always talked about the fact that, a phrase like clean your room means so many things for so many different people. For one person, clean up your room is as simple as the fact that that's what their parents told them to do. And so that's how they've always done it. They have never really thought through or beyond. And then we tell our children at this time, it's habitual in their own life. You come home from school, you do homework, you clean your room, whatever it might be, you make your bed before after you get dressed, first thing in the morning, eating breakfast, brushing your teeth, those kind of things are just automatic. And when you find yourself as a parent saying to your children, clean your room, finish your plate, do your work, do your homework, whatever that thing might be, there's a reason, a deeper behind that. And like I say, it could be as casual as just that's the habit that was instilled in you and you've never really thought through it. A lot of times it's deeper though. Maybe it's about, and again, if it's habitual, it may be that this is so deeply ingrained with you that you haven't really thought it through, but maybe it's about discipline. It's about the structuring of our lives to be in such a way so that we can get things done, so that we know that there is an order to the chaos that is life. I mean, there could be a whole lot of other things. The other side to it is you need to know. I was shocked the first time I learned this because my mom is such a great housekeeper. I was shocked to find that, there are some people that just, they don't keep house at all. It's not even about them being bad housekeepers. They just don't. It just is what it is. So it can mean a lot of different things for you. And that's a good way to find a secret into what that purpose is. So once we know what our purpose, what our passion, what we're put on this planet to do, then we need to share it. And that's where focus comes in. It's real easy. It's real easy when doing a Facebook Live here to you to have a squirrel moment and have I should tell them that story. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but it just popped into my head and I want to tell you, kind of thing. And it's very easy to have squirrel moments, to be distracted and to totally lose all focus. Sometimes, let's be honest, sometimes the rabbit trail is better than the whole sermon. Hey, John, glad to have you here with us today. Nice to see you. I hope things are going good for you. I mean, sometimes the squirrel moment, like I said, the rabbit trail, sometimes is better than the whole sermon. Sometimes that thing that distracts us is the whole entirety of the universe to lead you to where you really should have been going in the first place. And that's why I distracted you. That's why you can't focus on this thing, because you really are and should be over here. Right? But often we find ourselves lacking in focus. I know I do. I can go on a Facebook Live and I can be like, okay, I want to talk about this. And then I go off to, and I'm like, what was the point of that? And I've done speaking for so many years that I can typically wrap it back around. I'm sure if you've gone through some of my Facebook Lives and critiqued them, you're like, he said he was going to say such and such, and then he never got back to that point. That's why when I write books, I also have a content editor. When I do my book writing, and I would recommend this for you too, because most of us are, we know how to talk. We've been doing it our whole lives, right? Is using Speak to Write. It is so powerful in getting your book done. And I use the same thing. I can, and I'm focused on short reads, and I'll do another video for you as to why you should do a short read. But suffice to say, Amazon says so. Okay, we'll leave it at that for today. But when I write the book, I find myself, I have found that the easiest thing to do, rather than trying to type and think and all that kind of stuff, is I just simply talk it out. I know this is the idea. This is where I'm going. This is what I want to say. And then I just begin talking about it, especially with the things. Now, it becomes harder. And I'm not a big proponent of writing a book about something that you're not an expert in. There is an element to. I love John Grisham. John Grisham. He's one of the two that I'm thinking of. That they do a lot. He does a lot of research. Now, John Grisham also had legal background for that. There's a couple other authors that I can think of, or that I can't bring to mind right this second, that before they write the book, the guy that wrote Jurassic Park, Michael Crichton, is great for this. He will take, going way back to the Andromeda strain, he takes and does this deep dive research, and he knows so much about genetics or influenzas or viruses, or things that can come down on comets, or all of that kind of stuff. And he really dives deep into that to write the book. And there's a place for that. And it can be very interesting and entertaining type of material for us to listen to. But for the most part, when you're sharing who you are with the world, I always tell everybody, because a lot of my authors are like, well, what do I need to do to prep? Well, you don't really need to do anything. You've been you your whole life. Chevelle, so glad to see you again. This is, twice in just a couple of days. Yeah, we need to get your book written. Let's talk. If you go to askstevekid.com, that'll help you get on my schedule. And then we'll just, we'll take some time and we'll figure out What can we do to get that book done? Because we really need to get that out for you. I put that link out for you so that you can hop on my schedule. So and the reason why Speaking to Write works so well is because you take something you know. All right, that's what I was talking about. Take something you know, and you then share it in such a way that somebody that doesn't know that can understand and find the thing they're looking for. Does that make sense? So the person takes, a person's in need. Think about somebody on Google, right? And they're looking for something. Especially if your book is a bestseller. Oh my gosh, what a great way. If your book is focused, then Amazon spends billions doing advertising with Google. So then when they search on Google, I need help with this thing, it comes up if your book is focused. When your book has 75 things that I learned during COVID in 2020, Google doesn't have the ability to be able to say, number 25 out of those 75 is exactly the answer you're looking for. But when we're focused, laser deeply focused on our message, and that's where speaking comes in. You talk about that one thing, you share it, you tell them how to do it, what to do, and what action they can take. And it's a really powerful way to do it. But again, I myself, our company, anybody that I know that does that, we then have a content editor. You can freeform talk. And you can share a whole bunch of stuff, and then the content editor can come back in and say, you lost me on that point. I'm sure that if a content editor went through my Facebook Lives, I intentionally do Facebook Live, my radio show, things like that. I intentionally do them as casual conversations with you. And as stream of consciousness, and I'm just letting you into my heart and soul when I'm doing these. And so sometimes I just have a total squirrel moment and I never get back to it. That's partially by intent, partially just because it's who I am. All right. When it comes to our book, we can start in that place, and then a content editor comes in and says, all right, but I need more of this. And I'm sure if a content editor looked at the Facebook Lives, they'd be like, wow, Steve, you were going down this path and then you kind of never finished it, right? It's the difference between a Facebook Live and a book. Not that we couldn't start with your Facebook Lives or a few of them and make it into a book. We've done that with Signature Talks several times too. So the point being isn't about, let me do your book. It's just part of my life. And so it gets weaved in there. But the point is focus. The point is, when we know who we are and we then share that one thing, not the 25 things, you have multiple things that you have to share, but you can only share them one at a time. Just like we can only really have a deep, intimate conversation one-on-one. I love doing Facebook Lives. I love coming in really deep, and in my mind's eye, I can imagine a specific person. And often when I'm talking in such a way that I hope it feels like for you, that I'm talking to a person, because that's kind of how I visualize it. Again, a lot of years of speaking, I kind of get used to that, back in the day, and they don't teach this as much now, but back in the day in speaker training, they used to talk about pick out a person in the audience and speak directly to them. There's more movement and more crowd movement that they teach these days. But that's a really great way to focus. You find that person. They taught us this back when I was in school studying ministry type of stuff for the year and a half that I went. I didn't graduate I didn't get a degree in that. They talk about finding that person on the front row that's deeply, raptly engaged in what you're saying. There really is just, they're right there. and just preach the whole sermon just to them. Let the whole rest of the crowd drop away and just really hone in, lean into that person and give all that you've got to them. There's some goods and bads, and we critique, speaker training and all that from that. But that's the concept behind Facebook Live, our books. Whenever we're talking to somebody or teaching somebody, it's that level of focus. Now, really, really great, amazing speakers can do that and make each person feel laser focused in on, while not making the rest of the room feel excluded. That's kind of like, not even step 2, that's like step 200. All right. But that's where it starts. And that's where it ends, is it still has to be absolute focus. So focus on, what is my message? What am I talking about? Like today, I'm talking about, like Chevelle, she said she wants to focus on divorce. And we will, a part of what I do with people is we go into a strategy session. We talk about, what's the definition of success? Who is the reader and what is their biggest need? What do we want to help somebody with? Chevelle's also working on a prayer book. And see, that's a perfect example of what I was saying before. We have multiple things that we're meant to do and that we do. But by focusing, we get really specific. Really, really specific in that book so that we can really, really help them. We talk about reaching millions. And your book's going to do amazing things. Your talk is going to do amazing things. You can do a Facebook Live and you could have it blow up and go viral and reach millions. It is very, very possible to put something out into the world and have it blow up like that. But the really powerful part of that is you can impact the life of a person. And if your book, your story, your message, your Facebook Live, your whatever you're focused on reached one person, that would be more than enough. That would be worth it. Chevelle says, I survived my divorce and the negativity of the church during my divorce. Huge. And see, in that, it gives us great focus because now we know we're going to talk about divorce. We're going to talk about Christians. And because she's sharing her own story, she's talking about Christian women in church and the negative impact that going through a divorce, the way the church treated her. So we've got a really specific person we're talking to. A lot of times, especially when you're talking about a book, same thing's true with the signature talk. A lot of times the person that you're talking to is yourself. If only somebody would have shared this with me before I went through this. I went through this slough of despond. Here's what I wish I would have known before I ever even went through it. And here's now me walking through it with previous me, past me. You can do a planner, how to plan and organize your time management skills. See, there's so many of those kind of things that we have in us. And so it's about, you take the one thing, maybe it's divorce, maybe it's a book on prayer, maybe it's a planner and time management. You wouldn't want to, it's like, I always use Google because we're used to searching on Google. You wouldn't do a Google search for, I need a prayer book and I need to find a group that's going to help me as I'm going through this really negative stuff that the church is pouring on me in my divorce. And I also need some time management skills, and make that all one great big long, 3-sentence long Google search. Nobody knows what result you'd get. you know. I mean, you'd probably end up getting a no results with something that in Trent, or you get something so crazy, you know, it take one word out of that and be like, oh, I heard you say the word, um, you know, time in there, and you know, you end up getting a result that's something about, you know, Einstein's theory of relativity. You know, I mean, it's just when we lack that focus, we end up getting results that have nothing to do with what we needed. When we're selling, if we don't know, selling is basically just being the guy with the map. And you're saying we're going from A to B. Here are the roads we need to take. Oh, we got here and we ran into construction and we need to go a different direction. All right, we look back at the map, we go around a different direction. That's all that sales is okay, we ran into a roadblock. Okay, we still need to get to this destination. How can I help you get there? Same thing's true when we do our signature talk. We know that we want to take our listener from here to there. This is the train station. This is where we're going to end at. And then we bob and weave through and we get them to that place. And we want to share with them to the point that they really understand how they can get there and where they're headed, even more so. That's what focus does for us. So first we have to be, I'm just kind of recapping here. We need to focus. We need to understand who we are and what we're meant to do. Not just both the one as well as the many. And then focus on each of those individual things. We need to understand very clearly what is the need of the person that I was put on this planet to serve. And how is who I am and my skills, how does that help them? And then we need to focus what we're saying very specifically, very on purpose, so that they can get to that end point. It's not about me. It's about helping a person go. Now, when you're writing a fiction book, you can kind of let the character develop as you're writing it. It's actually kind of fun to write a fiction book that way, to just start off, this is the premise, and now let's see where we go. It's actually a fun way to write a fiction book. But when we're doing something that we want to help a person with a specific problem get from point A to point B, we need to know, where is point B? Who am I speaking to and what do they need? And then focus in on helping them go from where they are to where they're going. Focus is so key in all that we do in all of our lives. When I originally had started into this today, I wasn't thinking I was going to talk quite so much about books, but I'm glad we did. It relates to your signature talk, to even just doing Facebook Lives. I encourage you to do it so that you can just maximize who you are today. And that's all that it really is. You want to talk about the thing to focus on more than anything else? Focus on being the best version of you while it's called today. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow may or may not ever even get here. You can't spend tomorrow's hours. You could work all 24 of today's hours, but you can't get some of the time, effort, and energy from tomorrow. The 100% of all of the energy that you have for today is all that you've got. And then we narrow it down, focus, into this moment. This is the amount of energy that I have. And I'm going to put all of my effort into being the best me, doing the best thing that I can do right here, right now, where I am. In so doing, we make such a huge, amazing difference. Yes, we need to focus on the plan and stop being so easily distracted. We need to focus on who we're meant to serve, to be the solution, to love the world and ourselves enough to be able to move aside all distractions. As Chevelle said, procrastinations, yeah, and just take action right now in this moment with a focus, laser focus on the core and heart and soul of who am I and who was I meant to serve? And what can I do in this moment to be the best version of me? I want to see that for you. I celebrate you in advance for all that you do in this world, for who you are, how amazingly, radiantly wonderful you are. Thanks so much for just being you, for getting done today the things that today has in store, forgiving yourself and others for yesterday, releasing the burden of all the tomorrows, and then just simply powerfully show up in the here and now. I hope that today finds you happy, safe, warm, and loved, that you know how incredible you are. And if you don't, listen to me for a second. You are amazing. You're incredible too. There is no one. There is no one. There is no one like you. Shine your brilliant radiance, oh precious gem, into the world to be all that you can be today. With the things you're going through, the struggles that you have, I bless you with the gift of joy. Joy being the ability to know that in the darkest of nights, in the worst of circumstances, that the sun will again rise, that the horrendousness of this moment, if it is, that it will pass and good will come again. I bless you with that joy. Thank you so much for being you, for doing all that you do in this world, for showing up while it's called today. Until we're together again next time, I hope that you shine, you thrive, and yes, that you focus on what you're meant to do as we all live and thrive in what we're meant to do. Thanks for joining me today. Until we're together again next time, have a great week.